Hi, welcome back to another Millmont Elementary School Staff Spotlight video. I have Mr. Smith and a few of the fifth graders here with us to talk about the great teachers that we have here at Millmont Elementary School. I'm going to let my friends introduce themselves.
Hello, I'm Mata Berry in Mr. Smith's class.
And I'm Owen in Mr. Smith's class.
And I'm Mr. Smith in Mr. Smith's class.
Let's get started with the interview.
Mr. Smith, tell me about your education.
Well, I grew up not far from here, about an hour away in Lehigh County, but I grew up not in a city environment. I grew up with cornfields. In fact, the elementary school where I went to school, we were called the Corn Huskers because there were cornfields all around my school. I went to the same school district for all 12 years. I graduated from Parkland High School. When I was in 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade, I was an average student. I got C's and B's and occasionally an A here and there. But I was mostly an athlete during the time that I was in high school. I was a cyclist, a bike racer. So most of my time was spent bike racing and a little bit of time on studying. I then went to Penn State University, and that's where I really shined as a student. And I did very well at Penn State and learned that I was actually a good learner. So I went to Penn State first to be a meteorologist, who is a person who forecasts or predicts the weather. Later I changed to research psychology, and then later on I went to get my teaching degree at Penn State.
Mr. Smith, why did you become a teacher?
My students ask this all the time. I didn't always want to become a teacher. When I was in elementary school, I wanted to be a cameraman for a news team. Then I wanted to be a weatherman. Then when I got to college, I wanted to be a sports psychologist. And then I wanted to be a child psychopathologist. And then I wanted to be a guidance counselor. And then after all that, I found out that I have a knack for motivating kids to want to learn. And where I learned that the most was when I worked with camps. I worked camps with kids both here in America and in England. And it was sort of an outdoor classroom year-round that I worked. And the kids really seemed to be motivated by what I did. And I was like, I think I have a passion for this. And that's why I became a teacher.
Mr. Smith, what's the best part about being a teacher?
Besides June, July, and August? Two things. I really enjoy reading books to children. Good quality literature that's right above their reading level. I'll often have students who will come back to me after they've gone into 7th, 8th, and 9th grade and say, Mr. Smith, do you remember that book you read to us? I read it to myself. Man, was it great. A lot of kids get turned on to reading by some of the book choices that I've read. The second thing that I like about teaching is when I'm not the one asking the questions. It's when my students start asking questions because you guys have interests in things, and it's those questions that become new questions, that become your own learning, and then my job is just to sort of guide you through those questions and the answers, and that's exciting to me.
Mr. Smith, what advice would you give to a kid that wants to become a teacher?
Well, since I wasn't a kid when I wanted to become a teacher, and I didn't become interested in becoming a teacher until much later in life, I would say two things. Number one, keep a journal of the things you like about the teachers you've had and the things that you didn't like about the teachers you had. One of the reasons I didn't want to become a teacher when I was a kid is because I didn't like my teachers. In my reading class, they would have this box with these cards, and we'd have to take a card, read it, answer questions, take a card, read it, and answer questions. And I never got a love for reading because of that. In fact, the first book that I read from beginning to end wasn't until I was in college. I never finished a book in high school, in junior high, or elementary school. So first, write a journal about the things that you like and the things that you don't like about the teachers that you've had. And also ask teachers if you can have lunch with them and ask them questions about what they like about teaching, what they don't like about teaching, and that'll help you formulate your idea of whether you want to become a teacher as well.
Mr. Smith, if you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Just one? When I was a kid, there was a cartoon on television called The Wonder Twins. And it was a boy and a girl, and they had a monkey as a pet, I think his name was Gleep. And they would say things like, Wonder Twin powers activate, and then they would become things. And I'd like to do this with my wife, where we would hold hands and we'd say, "Wonder Parents, activate." And we would say, "Form of a giant fan," and we could blow all the leaves in our yard to somebody else's yard, so then I wouldn't have to rake them.
What is the last book you read?
I'm currently reading a book about American history during 1927. It's a lot about Babe Ruth and Charles Lindbergh crossing the Atlantic in a plane for the first time. But the book I read over our winter holiday was a book that we're actually reading together in class right now, called The Phantom Toll Booth, which was a book that was written in the 1960s. I had never read it before, but I think the class already is starting to enjoy it. Sort of a fantasy about a boy by the name of Milo and the adventures he takes in sort of this fantasy land in his little electric car. And I really liked at the end the lessons that I could learn, and that I hope you guys learn too when I read it to you all the way through.
Mr. Smith, what do you like doing on your free time when you're not at school?
Well, I'm a scoutmaster of a large Boy Scout troop, so most of my time when I'm not here is working with my Boy Scout troop. I have, in addition to my 20 students, I also have 63 Boy Scouts and 25 other leaders that I work with. And every single month we go on a camping trip. So this weekend, when it's going to be 14 degrees out, I'm going to go camping in a tent up in the Poconos. So it's the organization of those tent camping outings and the cooking outside and things like that that I really look forward to. And it takes a lot of my time. The other part of my time, I like to work with technology. With the Boy Scout troop, we have a website, and I'm constantly trying to develop the website so it's more user-friendly and useful to the Scouts.
Mr. Smith, what is the most interesting lesson you've taught this year?
This year, well, Mr. Seiler actually introduced me to something that we did called an hour of code, where we learned what a lot of students, even in high school, don't learn: how to write code to make a computer do something you want it to do. And I was excited about that lesson because there's going to be so many jobs in the future that will involve writing code for computers. And I think if we can get you guys as elementary students excited about writing code, we'll fit you into jobs that are high-paying jobs, and especially for kids in this area, I think that would be a big opportunity. I was excited to do it. It was a lot of fun.
Mr. Smith, why do you wear a tool belt?
I think a lot of people ask that to me, or a lot of people want to ask that, but they're shy to ask. I'm known for losing things. You know, I lose my Promethean pen all the time. So by having all my materials, my pens, my tape, my popsicle sticks in my belt, I can't lose anything. But more importantly, I've found, since I've been using the tool belt, it's kind of like a football player. When a football player is getting ready for a football game, a playoff game, the NFL championship game, as soon as he puts on his helmet, he changes. He has a different attitude of it's game time, it's time to work. And when I put my work belt on at 8:20 in the morning, my head changes and it's time to get to work. I'm not sleepy anymore. I'm not thinking about things I have to do at home. It's my game face and it's ready to teach.
Mr. Smith, would you mind standing up and showing us the tool belt?
Sure. It's up here, actually. So this is my all-purpose tool belt.
Excellent. Great. Thank you, guys.